After reviewing the evidence before this court, I hereby sentence you to 15 years in state prison.
15 years. My life is over.
The judge looked me in the eyes and said, 15 years. As the prison doors slammed shut behind me, I thought my life was over. I had no idea that the cold concrete cell I hated would become the very place where God would change my heart and turn a prison into a church. If you're watching this today, don't skip this story. It may remind you that no one is beyond the reach of God's grace. My name is Miguel Hernandez, and this is the story of how God found me in the darkest place of my life. I wasn't always a prisoner. I grew up in a small town in Mexico where my mother faithfully prayed every morning before the sun came up. She always told me, Miguel, no matter where life takes you, never run away from God. But I did. As a teenager, I wanted fast money. I joined the wrong friends, started stealing, selling drugs, and living as if there would never be consequences. Whenever my mother begged me to stop, I laughed. Nothing is going to happen to me, I would say. I was wrong. One night, what was supposed to be a simple robbery turned into a nightmare. A man was seriously injured during the crime. We were arrested before sunrise. Months later, I stood before the judge. He looked at me and quietly said, Miguel Hernandez, I sentence you to 15 years in prison. My mother's cries echoed through the courtroom. I couldn't even look at her. The first months in prison were miserable. Every morning I woke up angry. I blamed the police. I blamed my friends. I blamed the judge. I even blamed God. The prison walls felt like they were closing in on me. Every night I wondered if anyone even remembered I existed. One afternoon, an elderly inmate named Don Rafael walked over to my bunk. He carried an old Bible with torn pages. He smiled and asked, Son, would you like to read with me? I laughed. You've got the wrong person. He simply nodded. I'll ask again tomorrow. And he did. Every single day, never forcing me, never arguing, just asking. Weeks passed. Finally, just to make him stop asking, I said, Fine, 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes changed my life forever. He opened to the story of the prodigal son. As he read, I felt like the story was talking about me, a son who had thrown everything away, a father who was still waiting. That night, I couldn't sleep. For the first time in years, I whispered, God, if you're real, help me. Nothing spectacular happened. No bright lights, no voices, but something inside me became strangely peaceful. It was a peace I had never felt before. The next morning I asked Don Rafael, can we read again? From that day forward, we studied the Bible every afternoon. Other prisoners became curious. They would stand nearby pretending not to listen. Eventually one joined us, then another, then another. Soon our little Bible study had 15 inmates. We had no church building, no microphones, no choir, just cracked concrete floors, rusty bars, and a worn-out Bible. Yet every time we prayed, it felt as though heaven itself had entered that prison cell. One evening, something unforgettable happened. A man named Carlos, known as one of the most violent prisoners in the prison, stormed toward our group. He shouted, "Stop talking about God!" Everyone became silent. Then Don Rafael calmly handed him the Bible. He simply said, "Read one verse." Carlos grabbed it angrily. He began reading. Halfway through the verse, his voice broke. He stopped. Tears filled his eyes. He dropped to his knees. "I've ruined my life," he cried. That night, the toughest man in prison surrendered his heart to Jesus Christ. From that moment on, everyone knew something unusual was happening in Cell Block C. Our prison cell slowly became known as the church. Men who never prayed started praying. Enemies forgave one another. Fights became fewer. Hope replaced despair. Even some prison guards noticed the difference.
Excuse me, sir.
One guard quietly asked if he could join our
if I
Bible
could join
study
your
after
Bible
his
study
shift.
after my shift?
Soon, prisoners from other blocks requested permission to attend. The place that once echoed with anger now echoed with songs of worship. Years passed. One morning, the prison warden called my name. "Pack your things." I thought I was in trouble. Instead, he smiled. You've earned early release for good behavior. As I walked toward the prison gates, I looked back one last time. The building that had once felt like my grave had become the place where I truly found life. Before leaving, I hugged Don Rafael. He whispered, "Remember, don't leave Jesus behind these walls." I promised him I never would. After my release, I returned home. My mother saw me walking down the road. She dropped everything she was carrying and ran toward me. She wrapped her arms around me, crying. "I never stopped praying for you," she whispered. That day, I understood something I had never understood before. If my earthly mother never stopped praying, how much more had my heavenly Father been waiting for me? Today, I travel to prisons, churches, and communities across Mexico, sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. People often ask me, "Where did you meet God?" They expect me to name a beautiful church. Instead, I smile and answer, "In a prison cell." Because sometimes God doesn't rescue us from the darkest place first. Sometimes He meets us in the darkest place and transforms it into holy ground. If you're listening today and you feel trapped by your past, your mistakes, or your failures, remember this. If God could turn a prison cell into a church, He can turn your broken life into a testimony. No prison is stronger than His grace. No sin is greater than His mercy, and no heart is too far gone for Jesus Christ to reach. If this story encouraged you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs hope today. And remember, with God, every ending can become a new beginning.